I'm excited to introduce our next speaker, Ehab Aboud, Principal Solution Engineer at Uberall. Ehab has a lot of expertise in digital customer experience, and today he's here to share some powerful insights on how CPOs can enhance the online visibility of EV charging stations, an increasingly important topic as the EV market continues to grow. And for those who are not familiar with Uberall, Uberall is a leading platform for hybrid customer experiences. In simple terms, they help businesses be found and chosen online across search engines, maps, apps, and directories by ensuring accurate and consistent location and brand information everywhere where people are searching. So Ehab, I assume you're the guy who gets his phone out in every charge park to make sure that every charge point there can actually be found on Google, right?
Yes, and it doesn't stop at charge parks. It's restaurants, it's hotels, it's everywhere. And thank you for having me, by the way.
Okay, Ehab, so phones away for now. So tell us, what are your tips for charge point operators so that their chargers will be found and chosen by EV drivers?
Thank you so much. There are quite a few tips to go through today. I've counted 10, but actually I think there's probably more. I've made like half tips as well. First of all, to everyone, thank you for being here. You could be somewhere else, but you've chosen this moment to be here. So hopefully I could give you a bit of value and impart some knowledge onto you over the next few minutes as well. I'm going to go through a few marketing terms as well that might not make sense to quite a few people here, and that's fine. We have a QR code at the end. We actually have two QR codes at the end. And one of them is a free course. It's an hour course. It gives you a really, really good understanding. The idea is if you're a CPO or if you are in that space, then you'll have a good idea of how to get charging stations visible as much as possible. Quick intro about me. Ehab Aboud, Principal Solution Engineer at Uberall. I've been at Uberall for about 5.5 years. I'm a Google Business Profile Gold product expert. I think gold and above, I think there's probably about 100 of us in the world. There's not too many of us. So very, very, very privileged to be able to work on that kind of stuff. And if you don't know what Google Business Profile is, that's probably just the first thing to sort of get right off the bat. It's basically where the businesses log in to be able to influence Google Maps and other Google tools, basically. That's kind of the short piece. I'm an aviation geek. You could probably see a few planes behind me. There's some all over this office right now. And of course, yes, I'm an EV nerd. I'm not just saying it for this audience. I absolutely love this stuff. I watch the likes of, Out of Spec Studios on YouTube and all sorts. So that's a little bit about me. We got a quick intro already about what Uberall does, but just sort of to finish off, to give you a good idea of our credibility, and hopefully our advice comes with some weight. Uberall was founded about 12 years ago now. We've got about 400 employees, but half of them are in R&D, which is very, very important for us. We are a profit-making company as well. That's really important for us too. Got over 1.5 million customer locations. And recently we entered the EV space because we saw that there was a problem to solve, and we could solve it because we've been doing it pretty much everywhere else in all of the other industries. And then, so as described, we're a location marketing platform. I think that's just a succinct way of mentioning it. And in the EV space, we help structure the comms, the communications between CPOs and navigation platforms using one of our partners as well. And you probably have guessed who they are. We work with Eco Movement. They feed live data into these endpoints, and we feed the location data. So imagine going to a charging station and the pin is on the other side of the highway. We help solve that problem by ensuring that it's actually in the right location. But it doesn't really stop there. We also help manage ensuring that you're replying to reviews. Reputation and reliability in the EV space is so important. Checking the performance traffic on Google and Apple and a few of the others. Ensuring brand consistency across your estate of charging stations as well. And then, of course, like I mentioned, sending the right location data to Eco Movement and the other platforms to make sure that it ends up on the likes of Google and everywhere else. So before I go into the tips, I want to break into sort of 3 segments, and that's how I'm going to structure this conversation today. First, I'm going to talk about sort of the EV market landscape from a marketer's perspective. Then I'm going to give a quick rundown of sort of Google, some tips on Google, and then I'm going to talk about local pages. Also, you'll probably notice in the corners, I'm going to be crediting whoever's given me that advice. That's basically just going to be a bit of a jab against any of those. There's some cheeky AI engines out there who are not crediting their sources, and I like to believe that we should be crediting our sources. So that's why that's there. But with that in mind, let's talk about the current landscape and the problems that we're all facing out there right now. It's been a few years since we've seen the investment start in the EV space. And if you were at ICNC last year, you would have seen the conversations floating around that investors now want to see their return, and hence this GIF. It's no longer feasible to have CPOs lose money. However, the expenses are still out there. You can't just stop spending money altogether. So let's play this scenario. You found an opportunity and you've decided to build a new charging station. But everything about that is expensive, like I said. So how do you bring in that revenue? And that's obviously by getting found. Here are some examples of the kind of things that CPOs have to think about in terms of the costs, whether it's hiring contractors or rerouting vast power lines or building amenities or even the shiny chargers themselves. Actually, even the cables are really, really expensive on their own. So it's really quite a difficult task. And this is where you get back to the basics with Google and Apple and the like. And that's why I wanted to sort of share some quick tips. The idea here is, yes, most EV drivers, especially, the early adopters, and now, more of the mainstream have taken over EV. You have the likes of ZapMap and a Better Route Planner, a few other apps as well to use. Excuse me. But there are customers, there are drivers who don't know that these apps are around. And there's a common marketing term, which is follow your customer, follow where your customer is all of the time. We've been doing that for, at Uberall for many, many years to be able to help our customers follow their customers. So here the idea is, if someone's looking for a coffee, or if someone's looking for, I don't know, they're going on a road trip and they're stopping at a national park, they want to be able to include all of that routing in addition to their charging stations as well on their phone. Some navigation systems right now have got that stuff built in. Into their into the cars. But what if you're planning? What if you want to send that to your car? So you want to make sure that you have that as up to date as possible and consistent all over all of the touch points, not just some of these apps. I personally use multiple apps, even outside of the EV space. When I'm driving down, I was just in London, about 400 kilometers away from where I am now over the weekend, and I would use Apple Maps, Google Maps, and Waze for completely different reasons. And I'm not loyal to each of them. Well, I guess I'm kind of loyal to all 3 of them, but I'll use them for different reasons. And that's just something to keep in mind as well when it comes to sort of EV charging as well. So let's talk about Google. Everything you do on Google, be it as a business owner or the member of the public, or even a spam or a bad actor, it's all about trust. Every single thing you do is about trust. So I've tried to sort of visualize it here. On the left-hand side, you have members of the public. It's sort of all of the icons in purple. In the blue on the right-hand side, you've got sort of business owners. These are the kind of things that you would try to change on a profile. So, for example, changing an address. Google is going to check, who is this account? Is this someone I can trust? What even the time of day it is. What's the activity of this account over the last 7 days? Have they been trying to change a lot of addresses? Is it the same brand that they're trying to change? Is this a competitor? Are they a spammer? Then it goes into sort of the station itself. So then you're changing whatever it is on the station. Google then checks, okay, does this station actually need to be changed? Is this information correct? And it does that through a bunch of systems. And the first place it checks is your local website pages. And I'll go into that a little bit later as well. And then after, it goes to the wider internet as well, local directories, other platforms as well. And I'm just talking about Google here, but the system kind of works similarly in quite a lot of other search engines who are obtaining live EV data at the moment. So that will serve the basis for the next few slides on how Google operates. So please just keep this in mind. So I mentioned earlier, reputation, reliability, all of that is very, very important for the EV space. I personally have my favorite chargers when I'm driving. I've got a few in mind. I'm not going to mention any. Some of them are customers of ours. Some of them are not. But you can imagine the review that I leave, the review that other EV drivers leave, has an influence on future drivers as well. So with this in mind, if a review doesn't land, sometimes it doesn't because Google has really strict spam filters these days on reviews on Google Maps. If it doesn't land, there could be a few reasons why. Sometimes legitimate reviews fall through the cracks though. And this slide basically helps with that. So the idea is you copy the content of the review, you delete it, and then you actually visit that place on Google Maps again. If you're at the location, click to directions, or if you're nearby, click to directions, visit the location. Make sure that your phone is pinging in that location. Or you can click to call. I don't know if it applies so much for EV spaces, but sometimes you have a support number, that kind of thing. Or you click to the website as well. Wait a couple of minutes first, and then switch to posting that review again. If the review isn't against guidelines, then it should go through a lot more quickly. Again, credit to whoever showed me this before. And now we were talking about sort of the EV charging space on Google Maps. Something you'll probably notice is that there are, whether it's EV or not, there are locations on Google Maps that probably shouldn't be there, that have that probably have that probably shouldn't be there because they are old locations, because they have been removed, or they aren't being managed anymore. Sometimes EV charging stations have been pulled out of the ground for whatever reason because it doesn't make sense there. One of my friends in the industry, James Kant, he has this company. I've got nothing to do with the company, no affiliation, but I think what they're doing is quite incredible. They've got a lot of free information, so I'm not suggesting anyone part ways with money to get this information. There's a lot of free information out there. And one of them is, for example, fake profiles, that kind of stuff, keyword stuffers. Reporting them actually might help you prop up in the rankings. And then let's talk about sort of suspensions now. How do you trigger suspensions? Buying reviews is something that I really am against. Someone messaged me on LinkedIn the other day to try to pay me to put some reviews. That is not how this works. Ultra edited photos as well, not AI edited, but like imagine like superimposed text on top, that kind of thing. Spammy owners, so the owners are they known for a spammy history, that kind of thing. Fake brands, etc. And on this gentleman's bicep, it says simply breathing, because right now the space is a little bit wild, and that's why the likes of Uberall can help you. I'm going to try not to promote Uberall too much, by the way, but I'm just speaking the facts here. Now we've got a world-class location spoofer. So we've gone down the route of trying to find locations, trying to optimize them. Let's see what members of the public are doing. So you'll probably see here right now that you fill out this Valentin.app is this website, by the way. It's Valentine without an E, Valentin.app. You fill out the information, the keywords, the language, etc., that kind of thing. And then you hit geocode. So I've chosen a service station somewhere just slightly north of London. And it's just going to renew itself again, and you'll see that in a second. But ultimately, it will show you that blue dot. It's not the same as having a VPN to a country or a city. This geolocates to that specific location, and there's no other way to be able to emulate that other than here. But what you see as well is our customer is the top 2 on this location as well. I've literally just put a service station, and they had a top 2, and you can see that their information is live, etc. So I, as an EV driver, am going to visit that. But this is a great way to emulate what customers are doing, what drivers are doing in all sorts of locations, in all sorts of languages. I highly recommend. I've been using this for maybe 5 years or so. Again, it's completely free. You just go Valentin.app and it will just load. I don't know the owners, but it's awesome. So now let's talk about some of the changes that happen on Google Maps. As an owner, sometimes a bunch of changes happen, you don't know why. And the best way to do so, to find out what's causing that, is if you go to Google Business Profile, so business.google.com/locations. If you select your locations, or select all, whatever, and then you basically click Actions and Download All, you'll get this you'll get this view on the left. Basically, make sure you tick include Google updates before you hit download, and then column A on your spreadsheet, you'll see the reasons why or what has changed. So attributes, the business name, that kind of thing. What types of edits are these? These are suggested edits by members of the public. This could be sort of the bots are doing something funny that day and they've figured out that actually it needs to be changed for whatever reason, whatever Google sources are. And then let's talk about claiming listings. This is probably the single most common issue I see in the EV space. Every CPO I've ever spoken to has had an issue with claiming listings because you send that EV data via EcoMovement or one of the others, and it gets to Google. And then Google have this really long and convoluted way of claiming locations. Obviously, we are the Google experts, so we can help with that. But to give you an idea, if you wanted to know who owns those locations, you can go to the URL that you're seeing on the screen right now. You can search for a location, and you'll see that there's two here. Obviously, this is an EV, but it applies anyway. Coco Chic Warehouse. It says create a business with this name, and under it, it actually gives you an existing business. This is in Amsterdam, obviously. On the right-hand side, what you'll see is the location once you've clicked on that bottom one. And on the very, very top, you see an email address. It's obviously going to be covered a little bit, but it starts with a co.@gmail.com. If it's not at gmail.com, it will just say co at, and then it will just leave the rest to hide the identity. But sometimes as a business owner, you might know who owns that. You might know that actually this is probably a colleague's email address or something like that. So we've seen that quite a lot. And then something I moan about all of the time, if anyone ever speaks to me about this, as a local guide, I'm a level 8 local guide on Google Maps as well as a Google Business Profile Product Expert, you'll see that actually videos are so important. So what I'm trying to demonstrate here, these are 2 charging stations around the UK. You can see that they've got lots and lots of really, really useful information about their live data. This is earlier this morning. But what you'll see is actually the videos are the second item on the photos and videos carousel. There's always a video up there if there is a video uploaded. They are prioritized so much with Google. Sometimes they are even prioritized to item number 1, by the way. So really, really useful. Please upload as many videos as you can from both of these charging stations. I have such a good understanding of what that charging station looks like. Do I have a safe space? Let's say, for example, my wife's doing a long trip and I don't want her to go somewhere that doesn't have very good lighting. Does it have shelter because of rain and etc.? What if I have kids with me? That kind of thing. What if it has other amenities like car washes, etc.? I already have a good idea from the video. The photo does not do enough. But then sort of as a side to that as well, you have photos and videos that you're uploading. There is a factor in Google ranking and visibility called engagement recency. That basically is saying how often are you updating your profiles? How often are you updating them? You might not be updating opening hours very often because it's EV. And opening hours don't change that often because they're usually, they don't have any people working there in some instances. But what if you wanted to upload photos, videos? What if you wanted to make other changes as well, like reply to reviews? In this instance with photos, you're uploading, let's say you've got 100, and I'm plucking this number out of the sky. Maybe upload only 40% of them at once. Then the rest drip feed them over the space of a few weeks or months, maybe over a year, once a week. And you're basically giving signals to Google that you are still up to date. You are still engaging with the profile. This profile is up to date and can be trusted. Again, going back to that idea of trust. And then to the final tips on your website. Now, I mentioned this earlier. The idea is that if you have 100 locations, you should have, and on Google Maps, you should have 100 pages on your website, 1 for each location. And I'll show you what that looks like here. So here is this one location that I found. You saw it on video earlier. You'll see I've hovered over on the right-hand side, chargers.bppulse.com. You'll see on the very, very bottom left, the full URL. This isn't just chargers.bppulse.com. This is really, really critical because Google then goes to that page and tries to find information local information about that page, about that listing on that page to match it up. The name, the address, all of that stuff. This is really, really important. And so many businesses miss out on this, not just in the EV space. And then you've got, for example, locators. You need a really, really good locator. This is one of our customers, as you can see, powered by Uberall here. And this is more so much about the search experience. Basically, you're optimizing the search experience, but you need to have a map that has a full set of locations. This really, really helps with claiming and verification, which I've not spoken about too much. Addresses, you need to make sure it's usable and it's friendly and pretty. You need to make sure that you have filters there. And like I mentioned, the dedicated local pages. This is entirely scrollable as well. It's like 2 lines of code that we supply to our customers on a single page, and it creates all of the pages for them. It's really, really awesome. Absolutely love this. Now, I know this page doesn't really show an EV example, but I'll show an EV example in a bit. But I really wanted to showcase what one kind of business can do on their local pages. And it's really about sort of ensuring that your local pages have great content on there. Your H1 and H2 tags are identical to the business name, or at least as close as possible. I know, in Germany, you have to have ladder station at the end and charging station in the UK, that kind of stuff. But you need to make sure you have rich images and videos of the locations themselves. There's a TikTok video on the top right-hand corner of Gordon Ramsay making some burgers. That could be a video of the charging stations with like teaching people how to charge or whatever it is, teaching people the different chargers that you have. You might have different manufacturers. There's a reservation button here as well. There are some charging stations around Europe that have reservation. I don't know if I agree with it, but it's there as an option. You should be able to have all of that rich information here. This is a fake location, by the way. We love burgers. We've just created it at Uberall. But you can see the kind of information, the description, the opening hours, etc., all that stuff. It needs to all be there, the address. And then, okay, so what are Google looking at as well? I'll show what Google are looking at in a second, actually. This is powered by E.ON. You saw them earlier with their locator. This is what their local page looks like in the EV context. In my opinion, they could probably add a few more things on this page, but this is a fantastic start. You can see similar locations nearby. You can see the opening hours. You can see description, everything. And then finally, the final tip is ensuring that Google and the other search engines can see inside those pages and can pick out that information with something called structured data or schema markup. If anyone knows this kind of stuff, you'd be fully aware of what that means. But you need to have local business schema here as well. So this is super, super critical. I highly recommend doing this to be able to ensure that you are optimizing for local pages. Now that's the final tip. And all of this basically encompasses these pillars. You've always heard of SEO, search engine optimization. We at Uberall have coined a new term called LPO, location performance optimization, to help lead you to grow revenue. And these are those 4 pillars: visibility, reputation, conversion, and engagement. I'm not going to go too much into this. I just wanted to show this off because QR code coming, get your phones ready. This is the free course I was talking about for LPO. It doesn't take a long time. It's not 74 hours. I think it's an hour max. It's super, super useful. Everyone in terms of our customers, in terms of our prospects, have all benefited from this quite a lot. This is just free information to hand over to you all. I highly, highly recommend. I'm a little bit biased because I'm also in the course as well. So if you're bored of my voice, I'm very, very sorry. You will hear me again, but I highly, highly recommend. And then as well, if you wanted to take these tips home that I've sent you, that I've showed you today, I've done another version of this deck about a month ago at Brighton SEO for non-EV as well. So you might see some Brighton SEO references here and some additional tips as well. I think it was about 20 tips, but you scan this QR code as well. If I've gone too fast with these QR codes, just message me on LinkedIn, that kind of thing. Tell me if you've done the LPO certification as well. I'd really, really love to know. Tag Uberall as well. We'd really love to know. We want to see how interesting this is. Does it apply? Is there something missing? Please do let us know. And on that note, thank you so, so much for your time. Hope you have a great rest of your day. And that's it. That's me.
Ehab, thank you so much. That's a lot of tips. That's a lot of information. We did get some questions from the chat, and I do want to throw one at you right now. Are there technical reasons why a CPO couldn't do all this on their own and Uberall at all to implement all these tips that you just have shown?
Yeah, there's quite a few technical reasons. I think one of them I touched on, which is the claiming. Google make it so difficult to claim because there are so many bad actors out there in other industries, and Google have to be sort of ubiquitous in their methods to help make locations get claimed. But also, all of those optimization efforts I showed as well are really, really difficult. You can either hire a couple of people as full-time jobs who are going to be really depressed doing this all day, every day, or you can have a tool that does it, and the people in charge of that tool can be really creative and grow. So, yeah.
And what's the one most common mistake that you see CPOs make when managing their stations listing online?
Oh gosh, a mistake. I think the naming conventions could be a bit of an issue, but I think that partly because of how that information is sent over via OCPI. I wouldn't go far as saying that's a mistake by a CPO, but it's definitely something to keep an eye on. But yeah, just having your finger off the pulse is a bit of an issue with regards to videos and photos and rich data. So I'd probably focus on those. I've given 2. I'm very sorry, but yeah, those are the top two.
That's okay. Maybe you can give top 3 and 4 later on as well, because we'll be seeing you in the discussion round later today. So stay tuned for that. And for now, Ehab, thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you.